Good afternoon. Today is Saturday, June 16th, 2018. I'm going to play a clip from the Quite Frankly show that was broadcast on Friday, June 15th, 2018. I don't even have the words about what you're going to hear. I am convinced that this person is real. I'm convinced that this person actually experienced what she's describing. Her name is Jennifer, and she called in unexpectedly to the Friday night show of Quite Frankly. Take a listen to this, and I don't know what we can do from here, but I hope that she does get in touch with Frank like he asked, and maybe we can all collectively get her the help she needs. But she is a brave individual to call into his show. I'm going to play the interview in full. This is for your information, and please share it, and please subscribe to Frank's channel, Quite Frankly. This is about the most intense interview that you can possibly hear. I have no words, so let's just get right into it.
I've seen some pretty bad situations. When I was a kid, I've seen situations where a man was dragged into a room with the hood pulled over his head. And he was told that if he didn't have sex with a child while being filmed on camera, that they were going to kill him and his family. And that's something fairly common among the upper echelons of society. It happens very often. That's actually a big factor of pedogate and all the kind of stuff that happens there. A lot of people are brought into situations where they're told, if you don't have sex with this child, we will kill you and your family. And unfortunately, once they get in that situation, it's extremely difficult for them to get out of it.
So you're saying that the people? Well, I've read about this, and I've seen testimony about this before too, in other places as well. So what you're saying, I know, is not out of the realm of possibility. It's just very interesting that this is the first time I've gotten a call like this. You say you've seen this. How old were you when you seen this happen?
This one incident that I'm telling you about is I was about 6 or 7 years old.
Were you groomed in one of these programs?
Yes, I was born and raised in it. I was adopted by a family under the condition that the people who gave me to them would continue to have access to me. So I spent a lot of my time in these kinds of situations.
See, well, first of all, I completely sympathize. Well, I don't even know. My heart goes out to you. I don't. It's so beyond the pale, and I read it. I've read a lot. First of all, I know you're probably familiar with Kathy O'Brien, but I know a lot about. I know a lot about this type of stuff just based on her testimony and her books and her writing, and I seriously did not expect a call like this to come through. But I'm happy that you've had the courage to call in. And as far as those situations, that right there might be the scariest of them all. It's one thing to be drawn into that kind of a culture where you seek this kind of thing out, and you want to be.
And there are some people who do. There are some people who enjoy it, and there are some people who love it, have a smile on their face. And there are other people like that one man who I mentioned who. That was the first time I'd ever seen a grown man cry. The entire time he was doing it, he was apologizing to the child, and I that left a very big impression on me.
I've got so many questions, but I don't want to. I almost don't want to ask some of them. How long have you been watching?
If you'd like, you can ask me anytime you want.
How long have you been watching? How long have you been watching this show?
Honestly, I started watching when Jordan Sather came on it. I've been watching his for a while, and he came on you, and I just, kept watching.
And how old are you now?
31.
So you're 2 years younger than I am.
I guess so, yeah.
And where were you brought up?
I was raised on Long Island.
So you're a New Yorker. You're a New Yorker.
And I'm born and raised, yeah. I'm living in Maryland now.
This is now. Wow. Oh my gosh. Now, have you ever spoken to anybody about this before? Is this the first time you're talking about it publicly, or do you do any kind of activism on your own?
I mainly research
Frank,
it.
hold on.
Jennifer,
Jennifer, 1 second. Frank, I see you calling. Frank, be persistent. You know what, Frank? I will call you back right after. I'll call you right back, Frank. So, yeah, go ahead, Jen. It's Jennifer, right? I didn't get your...
Jen or Jennifer, either works.
Okay.
She's never Jenny.
Okay, you got it. You got it.
I'm active mainly online in groups. I have a lot of trouble going out in public for obvious reasons. But I've spoken about it online. I've written posts and stuff, but this is the first time I've called into somebody to actually really talk about it.
Now, were you able to get out of this, or are you still in some way involved or under the thumb of some people?
I'm still being targeted. I'm still being watched. But as far as I know, they're not actively interfering with me. After I moved away from New York, they've kind of been more or less hands off.
Well, Jen, if anytime you want to write into the show, there's more questions I'd like to ask. I'd love to have you back on because, you know, with everything that you're seeing, let me ask you one more question because I know that people are probably, you know, chomping at the bit right here. And obviously, I don't want this to be the last time you call in. Call in whenever you want, and we can have better, you know, deeper conversations at another time. But this was obviously just I'm taken aback right now. I'm calling because you mentioned that whole bad situation, and I need people to understand that a lot of what goes on right now in Congress and business and all that kind of stuff, many of these people are blackmailed. They don't want to do any of this. The vast majority want nothing to do with this, and they want it to be exposed, but they need the people to be awake enough and aware enough to not crucify the people who were blackmailed, and, you know, they need to focus on the people who actually enjoyed hurting people. Do you have any, and this is just a yes or no question, do you have any insight? Have you seen, would you be able to pick people out that are in public life today? How intense you've seen certain people that we talk about every day in certain situations?
Yes, I have. And that's probably the hardest part. One of the hardest.
Well,
unfortunately, when we're in these programs, myself included, is, you know, we're forced to kill other people and stuff like that. So the worst part for me personally is just knowing how many people I've hurt and how much harm I've done to other people, and knowing that it's still going on to other children.
Well, Jen, I really appreciate this takes a lot of courage, and I don't want you to give away too much, and I'm not looking to draw anything out of you because, of course, this is very heavy stuff. But I hear the sincerity in your voice, and I believe you. And please, I hope that you find solace in this show, and I hope that I can. You
have no idea how much you help. You have no idea how much you and your fan base and everybody who listens to you helps myself and other people like myself to know that that you guys are trying to help us, and that means so much to us. That means so much, and you help so much. So thank you. I needed you to know that.
Well, you'll never have to thank me. But listen, you know the email address to the show. You can email me anytime.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Quite frankly, podcast@gmail.com, and I always answer it. So please, just all I ask of you is I don't want you to have to relive your pain over and over again. I appreciate your insight whenever things pop up. I'm not looking for names. I'm not looking for you to relive any of that stuff. All I want you to do is just try to enjoy yourself when you're with us. All right?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call, Jen. I'll speak with you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
I don't know about you, but that was probably the most genuine call that he could have gotten of somebody who is clearly a victim of some type, and it does not sound good. I hope that Jennifer has the strength and courage to call back. I hope that she's getting the help that she needs. I'm sure there's hundreds of people willing to offer her help. So I hope she gets it. I'd be very interested to see if she calls back and or at least has a conversation with Frank, either by email or phone call, or if she calls back on the show. That'd be great. But yeah, that left me speechless. So very sobering thoughts. He does take a call right after. So I'm going to play this because it's important. The caller actually gives context to what her story involves. And you heard her actually refer to elected officials. And we all are getting frustrated why things aren't moving along. Now, those in the truth community, patriot community, we all kind of know that there is some mystical force behind the scenes that we can't see that is preventing, like Donald Trump to succeed in his agenda. There's just so many things wrong. People not being prosecuted that should be prosecuted. There could very well be a situation where maybe somebody is blackmailed. This is all conjecture at this point. We only had this one call, certainly not verified, but she certainly sounds legitimate. I think you'd all agree. So let's listen to the next caller that comes in. His name happens to also be Frank, but it's also very interesting.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Frank, what's going on, man?
Frank, you hear that? You hear that last call?
Frank, believe it or not, I just turned it on like 20 seconds ago, so I caught the last 10 seconds, man. I just got back from work.
Frank, so did you get the gist of it?
It sounded like it was a woman who had suffered some kind of severe abuse, but that's all I got.
Yeah, she was groomed, if you know what I mean. And I wanted, that's why I was calling out to say that I would call you right after her because of your background, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your background and as far as the what we're looking at, what the world is facing as far as what is done to children, and I mean, anywhere you want to start. I think I don't have too much time to give to this, but I would love for you to follow up that call for sure.
Well, it's when you're talking about grooming, is this somebody who was like part of the power structure, like DC? Or?
Yeah, she's talking about very recognizable names, groomed from the age of as early as 6, and has been witness to blackmail. Or material being made for blackmail. She's been a witness to violence, and she survived it, thankfully. But you and your brother have investigated a lot of things that are related to this, and you actually have a background with the John Benet Ramsey case and whatnot. I would love for you. What can you tell us about the global power structure of this kind of human trade?
Well, when you're talking about, especially Washington, D.C., you have kids that are groomed, and it's strictly for blackmail purposes. For example, Pizzagate. Everybody was making a big deal about Pizzagate and Alephantis, and I know I've sent you articles. Alephantis is nothing new. All right. I mean, back in 1989, the front page of the Washington Post was "Call Boys Get a Midnight Tour of the White House." And there was a Republican lobbyist. His name was Craig Spence. And he wound up being outed. And he pretty much said that he only had a few months left, that he was working for the CIA. And what they were doing was that they were supplying congressmen and senators with kids, and they were using them for blackmail purposes. All right. And that went on and what they were doing is, I mean, it was a pipeline. I don't know if you're familiar with the case in Nebraska, the Franklin case. They were taking kids from Boys Town in Nebraska, and they were bringing them to Washington, D.C. on Embassy Row. And the person that was running the show there his name was Lawrence E. King, not to be confused with the CNN host. And they would have these things, parties after the parties. The parties would give them cover, but then certain people would stay. And Craig Spence, this lobbyist, he ran several different organizations, and one of them was called the Golden Boy. And the Golden Boy was dealing with, young kids, 8-year-olds, 7, 6, 5-year-olds. So if a senator or a congressman wanted to have sex with a child, Craig Spence would arrange it, usually at a hotel room. They would have the room bugged, video camered, and then the senator or congressman was pretty much blackmailed for life.
You see, Are you familiar with Kathy O'Brien's work as well? You have to be.
Yes, I read her book a long time ago, and some similarities in the Ramsey case. When you talk about grooming, there was a woman who came forward in the Ramsey case. So let's say the murder was in '96. So in 2000, a woman came forward and claimed that John Ramsey's best friend, Sweet White, who John Benet Ramsey's, she was at his house the night she died, that he was part of a sex ring. And her story was that from the age of 4, her family, the Krebs family, had their own trainer. His name was Mackie Boykin, and his specialty was the garrote. Now, the garrote is not really a murder tool when it comes to kids. It's usually it's a sexual torture device. When used properly, I mean, I don't want to get too disgusting.
You don't have to get
viewers.
Don't get too disgusting. Not because this is a censored show, but just because I want to. My stomach is in knots right now, and to be honest, I'd like to talk about the hard issues, but I do not want to. This is all public right now. We're a live stream, and I'm not looking to expose anything or be a fucking hero. We know what's going on out there. I just want to know a little bit more about the mechanics. Is all. That's it.
Well, I mean, I missed most of her phone call. If I remember the Kathy O'Brien, I believe her family may have been part of it.
Yeah, they were.
Right, and in the Ramsey case, the woman Nancy, her family, it was intergenerational familiar abuse. So you're talking, a mother and father having sex with with Nancy, and then you're talking the grandparents were involved. Cousins were involved.
The dog was involved. They made her do bestiality.
I mean, pretty much. I don't know if she mentioned something called a buy-in event. Did she talk about buy-ins?
No. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's the financial aspect. I mean, this is a very disgusting and it's a very disturbing conversation to have. But
you know what? I got to thank you for all the background you've given me so far. This was supposed to be a really lighthearted show. And listen, I'm not bitter that we've gone where we did, because I like when the show just takes on a life of its own. But I want to thank you for the whatever you could have given us about the background. Well, we're going to talk over the weekend. I know you and I got to talk a little bit more. We'll get this stuff together. I'm going to take a really quick break, though, Frank, and I want to come back and I want to change it up just a little bit. If you hear something lighthearted that you want to call in and add to in the second half, please do so. I'm going to stay on past 9 o'clock.
I'm sorry I checked in so late.
No, just go back. I would just say go back and listen to the beginning, because yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, and hopefully I'll be able to call back.
Oh, you will.
Some more news.
No worries, man.
All right, Frank.
Talking
Thanks for taking me again. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.